Hello and welcome to Workhorse Wrestling Network. You are gathered with us tonight for the most chaotic wrestling review show in the multiverse. This is All For
NAWT NawT.
NawT. All right. The Nightmares are back at it again with this
Yes.
recap of Raw and NxT, the go home show to Clash at the Castle, baby. Raw
Yes,
started
sir.
off with Drew McIntyre coming out, speaking some words to Damian Priest. And Damian Priest set up a main event for the show of Drew McIntyre taking on Finn Balor.
Yeah. What'd you think about this?
I was like, oh, that should be a good match.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Drew came across okay. I mean, I'm not super hot on Drew at the moment. My thought was that he was going to get this win, and we'll talk about it obviously when we get to our preview of Clash of the Castle at the end. And my thought was that he's going to win here, but then I was talking to my buddy, and he reminded me that because Gunther won King of the Ring, that he has the title opportunity against the champion on that brand, which is either going to be Damian Priest or Drew McIntyre at this point. And so I guess Damian Priest is probably going to win because I mean, I don't. Drew's not going to lose it to Gunther, right? I mean,
well, let's do that at the end of the show.
Okay.
Okay. We had Dominic Mysterio backstage talking to Liv, and Liv gave him her hotel room key.
What'd you think of that? Does Liv get the needle moving for you?
It's fine. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. So I'm not going to complain about it. I thought it led to interesting dynamics for the Judgment Day to play with backstage, dealing with the hotel room key.
You, just from a strictly piggish appearance standpoint, two males talking about it, who for you is hotter, Rhea or Liv, if you're Dom? Who do you think is hotter?
I'd go Liv.
Yeah.
I know that the whole Dommy Mommy sort of thing is popular online right now. The goth Dommy Mommies, like.
All right.
But I guess I'm too old for that.
Yeah, I'm not a big. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Rhea's a very beautiful woman. She's just not my type. That just neither is Liv though. Really, when it boils down to it, Liv really isn't either. I mean, neither of them are really my type.
I'm not into blondes.
Yeah, blondes don't do it for me either.
So also there was a stipulation to the main event. If McIntyre beats Finn, Judgment Day will not be at ringside at Clash of the Castle.
Okay.
But I also have this feeling that I'd love to see Joe Hendry come out and help Drew.
Okay.
So I think that would be an interesting angle that they could do. Even whether Drew wins or loses, that having Joe Hendry come out to take on Judgment Day at ringside would be a fun moment.
Technically British, right? He's not actually Scottish, right?
He is Scottish.
Oh, he is Scottish.
Yes.
Joe Hendry's Scottish. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
There's Drew McIntyre, Nikki Cross, and Joe Hendry.
Interesting.
Obviously
they've had that. We've done the crossover stuff with Jordan Grace, so I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm not sure that I necessarily see that happening, but if it does, I'm here for it.
The most that would come from it is let Joe Hendry get a match against Damian on Raw. That's the most I could really see come from it, but that'd be a nice match. You get to showcase the TNA talent. The TNA talent's putting it over the WWE champion.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it. And everybody seems to win. I mean, technically he'd be losing the match, but he gets a moment on Monday Night Raw and a moment on the pay-per-view, so seems worth it to me to lose a match again against their world champion at that.
Right.
Braun Strowman, Dragon Lee, and Rey Mysterio faced off against Carlito, Dominic, and JD McDonough, which match was better than I thought it was going to be when it started. I was just Braun in here. I don't know about this, but it was pretty good.
No, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I mean, I made a joke to my friend that it looked like what was I gonna say? Oh geez, now I can't remember the joke. But Braun's height difference compared to the LW. Oh, it looked like Gulliver in the Land of Lilliputians, because he's so much bigger than them. They look like they're just all three of Dragon Lee, Rey Mysterio, and whatchamacallit, Electra Lopez all look very tiny standing next to Braun Strowman. And I'm not a big fan of Braun Strowman as a face, but I thought this match came off okay. We've talked about this before. Unfortunately, I think the only way for him to really work is the big kind of angry roaring monster, and that only really works for me in a heel format. So, but again, I mean, I thought this match was okay. Dragon Lee's amazing. I'm always happy to watch Dragon Lee.
And I'd be fine with him doing that if he went over to SmackDown to do it. That spot's already filled on Raw.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't want two people doing the same gimmick, especially when they have similar names.
For sure. Definitely. And I like seeing Carlito back. I mean, he seems to still have it for the most part. I mean,
that's got it.
Yeah. So that's fun. I don't know that I like him with the Judgment Day, but if you really want to solidify Judgment Day as a top faction, you got to add more guys, I guess. I mean, to be fair, the couple guys they've added in JD McDonough and Carlito are not necessarily main event guys, so they're kind of more mid-tier guys. But you do have Finn and Damian Priest, who are definitely main event guys at the moment, and Dominic.
And you got Dom.
Right, and Dominic, who's right on that line, right? I mean, he's definitely not a mid-carder, but I don't know that he's necessarily main event level
yet.
Give
him 5 years, he'll get there.
Oh yeah. And then
I have no doubt in my mind.
Event, right.
All he needs is time and experience.
No doubt, 100%. Yeah.
Other matches on the card, we had Io Sky versus Lyra Valkyria.
Yeah, which I thought was impressive. I thought that Lyra had a really good showing. The more I see her, the more I like her.
Carter and Chance ran down after the match because Damage Control was beating up Lyra after the match was over.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they're not the women's tag champions anymore, so they're having a tag feud, and one of the teams isn't the champions. That's so weird to me because I don't think we've ever seen that.
Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, it shows a level of awareness, and I guess I want to say the caring about the tag team division a little bit more, because normally you just have your champs in the storyline and that's it. You only got to pay attention to them. But this shows that there maybe is a groundswell for maybe trying to build up the division away from just the championship title, which is really what they need to do. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Carter and Chance are good enough to be main roster, superstar talent. We'll see. I mean, but nonetheless, I do like the hopeful development of some storylines that don't involve just the title in the women's tag team division. So
there's a pretty big gap in the WWE women of great women, and then how did they get out of NXT women?
Unfortunately, that's very true. Yeah, especially right with all the injuries right now. So,
we had Sami Zayn facing off against Otis, which is the number one storyline, right?
So, yeah, I mean, this is really interesting to me because really there's two storylines going on here, right? There's Chad and Sammy in the Intercontinental Championship, and then there's the Alpha Academy kind of dissolved with Chad basically going heel and now treating Otis like a piece of shit. And ultimately Otis is going to turn here. I thought it was going to happen last night, and it kind of half did, but then, or on Raw this week, it kind of half did, but then at the end he kind of came back. So it's weird because there's definitely two different stories going on here within this same kind of storyline. So I mean, I'm a huge Chad Gable fan. and I'm a huge Sami Zayn fan, so I'm torn here. I feel like even though Sami Zayn has spent most of his career being overlooked, it hasn't been to the level that Chad Gable has. And so I kind of want to see Chad Gable get a run with that IC belt. At the same time, I'm not necessarily ready for Sammy to give it up. And I do worry that Gunther had it, Sammy had it, which isn't quite a step down, but maybe a little. And then to Chad, unfortunately, I think for everyone, they feel like it's a step down. I don't necessarily feel that way, but I think other people do. And so I worry about that a little bit. But
I don't hate it because like Chad is top of the mid card.
yes.
And the problem is that the other two dudes are not mid card dudes. And
That's true.
They were just fighting for the mid card title.
This is very true. I mean, and that brings you back to that whole, does WWE want to have a delineated, top level title and a mid card title? Whereas like Tony talks about in AEW wanting them all to matter and be all basically main event titles. I think WWE sees it more probably like we do when we do Into the Squared Circle, which is a top tier title and an actual mid card title. But I don't know. I mean, obviously with Gunther, that IC title was a main event title. So, I don't know. I'm torn. I like the idea of Otis and Chad having a feud. Chad's been great as far as basically being a total asshole to everybody. And I think Otis's ceiling is not very high, so it is what it is. But I'm here for Otis versus Chad at some point.
It's probably going to happen at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Whether it's going to be for the title or not, like we'll find out this Saturday.
Yes.
But like, I don't think you need the title for it.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, I did think that overall this was a pretty good, this being the go home show for Clash of the Castle. I think that I think it elevated the Sammy Gable match a little bit more. Honestly, though, I do think this was a little bit more Otis Chad heavy, so it almost moved a little bit towards there when really it's Sammy Chad that should be the focus because they're the ones wrestling on Saturday. But maybe Saturday when we'll see the Otis turn finally. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he'll cost Chad the title, and that way Chad doesn't have to take an actual loss here, and Sammy can retain the belt. I mean, just an idea. I don't know. And then you have Chad and Otis resolve their issue before Chad gets another shot at Sammy down the road. I don't.
We had Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark defeating Alba Fire and Isla Dawn.
Interesting, yes. In a non-title match, because they're the champions.
No,
I thought Unholy Union was I'm sorry, that's End of the Square Circle. Wow, I got real life confused with the video game that we play. All right, then. Disregard what I said. That is correct. You are correct.
Honestly, right now I'm spacing on who the champions are. Bianca and Jade.
Jade, right? Yep. And then whatchamacallit on the on SmackDown. And it's still. I'm trying to think. Is it still Damage Control? No, it's not. It's
no. Bianca and Jade, Damage Control's on Raw.
Oh, you're right. Okay, that's right. You're right.
We had Braun Breaker and Ilya Dragunov.
Yeah, which I thought a really solid match.
Honestly, probably match of the night for me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I thought it was really solid. Glad to see both these guys on the main roster. I think they have good chemistry and work well together. I looking at both these guys, I personally like Ilya more, but they both have a really high ceiling. It wouldn't surprise me. They both were NXT champions. It wouldn't surprise me to see them both Intercontinental and/or U.S. title champions at some point, and/or world champions, both of them at some point. So,
and main event. Drew McIntyre defeated Finn Balor
in a solid match. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, obviously they can both wrestle. Finn's an amazing wrestler in my opinion, and I think he makes usually the guys he wrestles with better. And Drew's pretty good, so I mean, together they have good chemistry. I enjoyed it. I thought it was solid. I guess Drew getting the win makes some sense. But I don't know. Yeah. Did you have any issue with Drew getting the win?
Uh, not really, no.
I mean, he shouldn't be taking a loss before his title match at Clash the Castle, right? I mean, probably shouldn't be taking a loss. So
And it just means that Judgment Day can't be there at ringside with him, which
should, in theory, make the match better.
you would think.
I mean, we'll see what that ends up meaning. I mean, I don't know. When does Rhea come back? Do we know?
She could be back in time for SummerSlam,
Okay.
but she's likely not to be back before Money in the Bank.
Okay.
Like, I'd be real surprised if she comes back before Money in the Bank.
Yep. No, I thought this week's Raw was okay. I mean, it was solid. I didn't think it was a great go-home show, but I thought it was pretty good. I thought most of what they did geared up towards Clash of the Castle. Clash of the Castle should be a good show, and we'll talk about that, obviously, as we preview Clash of the Castle at the end of the show, at the end of this show.
So, WWE NXT. We got a recap video of Battleground, and Kalani Jordan came out and talked some stuff. I mean, she said she won like championships in gymnastics and
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was really surprised. You could have twisted my arm, and I never would have picked whatchamacallit to win that ladder match and that belt. So I was a little surprised. And I don't, I'm not she doesn't move the needle for me, and I didn't think this was great, honestly. So
yeah. Jada Parker came out, and then Michin attacked Jada Parker from behind. And
yeah, I mean, I like Jada Parker. I like Michin. Obviously, Michin's been around for a long time, and Jada Parker is, up and coming. I think they're both good, and they seem to, have good chemistry together. So
that set up a match between them. So Carl Anderson grabbed a chair from Jada Parker. Doc Gallows distracted the referee, and then Michin rolled up Parker to get the win.
yes. So more activity from the club, which I like to see, and that Michin's a member, so they came out to help her ultimately. I mean, I like Anderson and Gallows, so I'm happy when they're on TV. So I mean, I understand that they're not being used a whole lot, which is fine. I thought they should have beat Axiom and Frazier just because I don't like Axiom and Frazier as a tag team. But I think if you're trying to, especially on NXT, if you're trying to make the OC potentially something, or the club, a big faction, you probably want to put those belts on them at some point. But and have Michin win some matches at some point. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm here for this for the most part.
Sweet Michin music. All right. We got a backstage thing with I'm forgetting their name. Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne, saying that they're going to avenge Wesley for getting beat up by a Gallus.
Yes.
Undisputed WWE champion, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, was came down, gave people high fives.
Yeah, this just surprised me. I mean, I understand they're trying to put some eyes on NXT, but I was really surprised to see Cody Rhodes here. So, I mean, I don't really care because Cody doesn't do much for me, but I just thought it was interesting that they have him on NXT. It's one thing to bring a Baron Corbin or a Shayna Baszler. It's another thing to bring your unified or I'm sorry, not unified, undisputed, world champion to your lowest brand level, right? So,
We then got a backstage segment with Chase U. Duke Hudson and the other dude were arguing with Ridge Holland about him joining Chase U. Thea Hale got people to stop arguing and said that they need to get on the same page.
yes, I would agree with that. Chase U, I've never been a big fan of Chase U, so those segments don't really do a whole lot for me, but, it is what it is.
Up next, we got the six-man tag match. Wesley, Pete Dunne, and Tyler Bate taking on Gallus.
Gallus.
New Catch Republic, that's the name.
Yes. New Catch Republic. Gallus got the win here, which I thought was interesting. Well, I really like Gallus, and I'm glad that they're back and healthy. Joe and Mark are a little bit better for me than Wolfgang, but I like them all as a trio. I'm a huge fan of New Catch Republic. Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne are great, and Wesley's great. So, 5 of these 6 guys I'm really high on. I'm not down on Wolfgang. I just, he's my least favorite of these 6 guys. When you put these 6 guys in the ring, you would imagine they would have a good match, and they did. Like I said, I was a little surprised that Gallus got the win, but I think they're trying to push Gallus a little bit right now, so I'm here for that. So,
Idris Sanofi and Malik Blade tell Brindley Reese to be careful of Wendy Chu.
Wendy Chu. Her first match back, now that she's not sleeping Wendy Chu?
Which, I mean,
okay.
We'll get there. There's one thing left. We saw a package where we see Sol Ruka go through her day and workout routine leading up to Battleground. And it focused on highlights of the ladder match with her.
I thought it was a little odd, the package itself. I mean, I didn't have a problem with the actual recap highlights of the match, but I thought that her sewing her pants and making her outfit, I thought was a little odd. I don't know. I just thought that it was a little weird. I don't know. But did you like it? I mean, did it personalize her for you? Did it make her more?
It basically just felt like a statement of them saying, we're not giving up on Sol Ruka. Like, she didn't win, but we're not giving up on showcasing her.
Yeah, I can see that. That makes sense.
All right, so Wendy Chu versus Brindley Reese. I mean, what did you think of the match?
I mean, Wendy Chu looks 100% different. I'm not totally sure what to make of it. The makeup around her eyes kind of makes her look raccoonish. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of that. I guess see how this ultimately plays out. This is now, if I'm not mistaken, like her 3rd character change, right? She was someone before Sleepy Wendy Chu, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so there you go. So, for her, and because I want ultimately everyone to do well, I hope that this gimmick ends up working and picking up steam, and she has a solid career, and she can use this and be whatever. This match didn't really do anything for me. Brindley Reese doesn't really do anything for me. This is probably the low point of the show, unfortunately. But at the same time, it wasn't terrible. I mean, it wasn't not watchable. I mean,
see, and I am of the opposite mindset where I'm like, I saw promise. Like, I thought she was better in this than she was before. Like, she's been away, and I didn't feel rust. I felt improvement.
Yeah, no, I think she's definitely better than she was when she was Sleepy Wendy Chu. And like I said, the jury, we'll see what this ends up playing out like. I mean, it wasn't a bad first match back. I just thought, even with that, I still just thought it was kind of the lowest point of the show. But again, I mean, it wasn't a terrible debut back. Brindley Reese just doesn't do anything for me, so maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
But I feel like Wendy Chu could make her way up into being the number 5 woman on NXT if she plays her cards right.
Yeah, I mean, if this gimmick can get over and she can actually make it work for her, then I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, I think she probably has the skills and the talent. I'm not sure that we've seen it enough to make a judgment for sure. Not just this character, but even overall, like her actual skill and talent. But, um, I hopefully she does. I mean, they wouldn't put her on TV unless she had something. So, hopefully she can make that work. And they wouldn't keep her around and they wouldn't give her a third reiteration if they didn't think that she had some potential.
Yeah.
They're clearly trying to find something that makes her stick and get over with the crowd. That's why they keep repackaging her, and because they like her, obviously. So, so that's positive in her favor. So,
But like, then when thinking about the women's division, like the top three are clear cut, and like Julia hasn't even debuted yet, and like she's already clear cut being top three of the entire division.
right.
And then you got fourth and fifth spot, like who's competing for it? You got Sol Ruka, Fallon Henley, Kalani Jordan, Wendy Chu now, and I guess Cora Jade when she comes back in like 3-4 months.
Yeah. Lola Vice. Well, Lola Vice in the top three for you.
Yeah, Lola Vice is top three. Like
Okay.
Roxanne, Lola Vice, and Julia. Like everybody else is competing for fourth and fifth spot.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment at this point in time, which is a slight indictment. Nothing against Julia, Roxanne, or whatchamacallit, but that's a slight indictment of the the NXT women's roster at the moment, which isn't great. They could definitely use a couple more women, and maybe some big name women, not big name, but women that are really good. Let's put it that way. So I don't know.
I mean, but they're not really big on hiring indie talent anymore. Like we're getting Julia, and thank God we are, because like everybody else, like they're making from scratch.
For me, I understand why. I guess I kind of understand why I understand why Blair was ultimately drafted. She's a little older. She's a little bit longer in the tooth. I get why. And ultimately, when she comes back, she should be a main event or a main roster superstar. Lyra Valkyria, even though I think she's good enough to be on the main roster right now, I thought she should have stayed in NXT a little bit longer. I just think she could have benefited from just staying and trying to elevate that division a little bit more because she is really good. She would have provided another really solid woman at the top of that division, and it would have just made it stronger. And she's needed because of the injuries on the main roster, but once everyone's back and healthy, I'm afraid she gets lost on the main roster a little bit. That's my personal concern. So, but we'll wait and see.
Like I'm spacing out on any other women. Like who else does NXT have? Like
nobody, because everyone right, yeah.
Toxic Attraction, Ariana Grace, like these are women who I like in my head are not top 5 women.
No, definitely not. None of those ones that you just mentioned are top 5. That's for sure. No, I mean all the women that would have been in consideration for that have been moved up to the main roster. So I mean, because of that, people obviously then move up. I don't know. Is Mi Chin a NXT, roster mainstay? If she is, I'm not sure where she belongs. History says she belongs somewhere up there, but they're not necessarily booking her like that at the moment. So I'm not totally sure.
I also just am of the opinion that she's not there for long. She's just there for now.
And that might be true. So if that's the case, then, it is what it is. But, if we're talking, just current and she is technically part of it, then she probably belongs somewhere in that conversation above a lot of those women. But no, I mean, ultimately, you're right. I mean, the Fallon Henleys, the Keanu Jordans, those guys are probably in that next 4 or 5, somewhere there, and yeah.
I mean, honestly, I probably need to go and watch the match again because, like, one of us liked it, one of us didn't. So, like, I need to watch it a second time, get a firm opinion about it.
Sure.
Roxanne Perez got an interview about her upcoming State of the Women's Division address that she teased for later. And she bragged about beating Jordan Grace. She was approached by Robert Stone, who tells Ava was wondering what Perez was going to talk about, and Perez said she had that they got to wait until the segment and find out. Like that, she had to wait to find out her opponent for Battleground, so they can wait to find out what she's going to say.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was a little odd, but at the same time, Roxanne Perez is a pretty decent promo, so I thought she made it. She did it okay. Came across okay. I mean, she's not great, but she's solid enough. So,
I mean, we don't have good promos in NXT.
At the moment, we don't. We're missing. No, you're missing probably. I'm trying to think of who the best promo is right now. I mean, for me, honestly, right now, and he's like you said, probably not there for a long time. Really, the best promo right now is probably Ethan Page, unfortunately. And then next to him, I'm not even sure. I mean, that's a tough. I mean,
I think it's the AEW dudes.
What do you mean?
The three dudes from AEW.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like they're all a notch above everybody else on NXT, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I was gonna say Tony D. Tony D's a decent promo. When it's just him.
Yeah.
He's not terrible. The other guys aren't very good. Luca and Stax leave a lot to be desired, but Tony D's all right.
Well,
Wesley's an okay promo. He's not terrible. Wesley's okay.
I'd be willing to give him fifth best, and then probably Obafemi at number 6.
Yeah, and Oba's getting better. I mean, yeah, he's definitely getting better.
But
there's NXT is in, even though it feels like NXT, which is a weird thing to say because it's going to sound contradictory, and I'm not totally sure how to reconcile it in my mind, but NXT feels the best right now that it's been in many regards since Black and Gold, and at the same time, the roster feels depleted. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot on there. So it feels like the booking is good, and what they're giving us with what they have is really good. They just don't have a whole lot in their bag at the moment.
I mean, who do you think's a better promo, Trick Williams or Obafemi?
Ooh.
Because I'm saying Oba 6, Trick 7.
They're different from me, right? Oba doesn't do for the crowd what Trick does. Trick is over with the crowd, and not just to whoop the Trick, but just his style of promo, very upbeat, very, happy-go-lucky, very kind of high energy. So in that regard, I think at this moment in time, I think he's probably a notch above Oba. But Oba's a good promo, but he's a more traditional kind of stoic, big man, doesn't talk a whole lot type of promo, that's when he, doesn't say a whole lot, but when he does, you want to listen. Whereas Trick is more that, like he was with Mello, the hype man. I mean, he's still good at doing that for himself. So for me, I think I like the Oba style better, and I like Oba better, but I think at this point, Trick's a hair above just with their mic skills.
So after that, we had Cody Rhodes come down to the ring. He's giving a speech, talking about the magic of NXT, talking about facing AJ Styles at Clash at the Castle. And then Trick Williams comes down. I mean, I feel like not much was said.
No, there wasn't a whole lot said. I mean, no, there wasn't.
They're going to be doing a 25-man battle royale to name number one contender for Trick.
Who do you think should win that Rumble? I mean, I don't know all 25 people in it, so it's a little hard to say. But I mean, just thinking of the NXT guys that are going to be in it that we know, who do you think should be?
Personally, I think either Tony D or Sean Spears.
Yeah, I like both of them. I think both are solid.
I feel like your only other option would be like a Wesley.
Yeah.
I don't think you can give that spot to like anybody else.
No, I mean, can you see Oba with 2 belts? I mean, is it time for? I mean, if he's in that Rumble, he's a big dude. He could eliminate a lot of people potentially. I mean, I don't know that he's ready to move up to that kind of a spot yet.
I
I don't
think
know what
Lexus King will get a good showing, but he won't win.
Yeah, that's probably true. I think that's probably true. Yeah, I'm trying to think. For me, I guess Tony D is probably the best challenger at this moment in time. So
Cody gets invited to the cookout.
yes.
We got a replay of Javon Evans attacking Sean Spears when Spears attacked Josh Briggs in gorilla position.
Yep.
Sarah Schreiber interviews Dante Chen before their match.
Yeah. Not a big Dante Chen fan, but I'll be honest with you. I enjoyed this match. I really did. For me, this is both Lexus King and Dante Chen's best match so far that I've seen either of them have on NXT. Which for Lexus King is good because I think he's been very underwhelming at this point. For a guy that I thought we could expect a lot from, he should be up in that position with Trick, challenging Trick for that title.
It's such a weird thing because he gives good promos. Like I feel like his character's fine. It's not great, but it's fine. Like it's like mid-level, NXT,
right.
North American champion level.
Right.
But like his matches just haven't been good.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether he's to blame for it.
Yeah, I don't know if he's to blame for it or not, but it's been underwhelming for sure. And until this point, this feud with unknown Dante Chen wasn't helping either. I mean, I didn't know who Dante Chen was, and it's like, well, what the fuck is this? So, but then there was this match, and this match was really good. So, at this point now, I'm feeling a little bit different about it. And they've been showing Dante Chen a lot, mostly in this feud, but they've been showing Dante Chen a fair amount. So he's kind of growing on me a little bit. I'm still not sure he moves the needle a lot for me, but he's growing a little bit more. And I was glad to see Lexus King finally have what I call a good match. So,
all right. Well, I'll go ahead and say that Lexus King won the match. I don't feel like there's really much we got to say about the match.
No, I mean, it was a Singapore Cane match, which, I think is interesting. When they do stuff like put an Asian wrestler in a Singapore Cane match, it's like, did they do that intentionally? And of course they do, right? So, okay, it is what it is, but the match came off well. And explain to me the difference between a Singapore Cane and the kendo stick, because a lot of those look like kendo sticks to me. So maybe I don't know the difference, but.
Well, I think Singapore Cane's like any sort of stick object.
Okay.
A kendo stick is just a kendo stick.
Okay, so any stick can be a whatchamacallit, but okay, that makes sense. So yeah, no, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid match. I mean, I like I said, I think it was the best match for both these guys so far that I've seen. So
we had a backstage with Wendy Chu again, where somebody like tried to be friends with her, and Wendy Chu just gave her a glare.
I mean, clearly she's a heel now. So I think Sleepy Wendy Chu in the pajamas was a face.
Yeah.
And now she's definitely a heel. This is definitely badass heel Wendy Chu. So okay, we'll see. I'm willing to give it a chance.
Me too. We had Jasmine Nix and JC Jane backstage. And Cody gave JC Jane his old dashing Cody Rhodes mask.
That's right. Which I thought was odd. What is the purpose of this? Like, is it to try to give some life to JC Jane? I mean, this felt really weird to me. I mean, Cody Rhodes isn't flirting with her, so there's nothing romantic there. I mean, there's no. What does JC Jane have any connection to Cody Rhodes? Why is he giving her his mask? It makes no sense to me.
Broken nose, and he's at NXT. Oh, that's the only connection I see.
That was really weird to me. So, okay. I mean, it wasn't terrible. It just didn't make any sense.
Michin talked to Ava and tells Anderson and Gallows that after her win tonight, she has secured a North American Championship match 1-on-1. We got an Eddie Thorpe return video package thing saying he's returning next week.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, didn't he return this week because he got a match, right?
Not I didn't mean next week. That he's returning next.
Right, next,
Yeah.
Yes.
My bad.
Because I was like, that's okay. I was like, I think he had a match tonight. I thought I saw it.
I'm so used to saying next week that because freaking backstage internet, it's some promos and stuff. It's always next week. No, he said next. So that's what we got next.
Yeah.
With Tavian Heights.
Yeah.
Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's how I would pronounce it. I've never seen him before.
So that's just to put Eddie Thorpe over on his return.
I did think that Heights had some moments where he looked pretty impressive. I mean, I didn't think this was just. It wasn't a squash match. Let's put it that way. It was an Eddie Thorpe showcase, but it wasn't a squash match. They definitely let Tavion get a little bit of offense, and I thought he looked pretty good. So, I mean, I'm interested to see what he brings. I mean, Eddie Thorpe is clearly the guy they want to push out of these two. That's why Eddie Thorpe got the win, and he's been off and on and on TV. And so I think that they like him. They keep trying to put him on TV and push him. So I feel like backstage they like him, Eddie Thorpe, that is. So, but I think the future looks like it might be bright for Tavion Heights.
Well, that leads into the next thing. Backstage, we get no quarter catch crew.
Name.
Yeah. And Charlie Dempsey tells Miles Bourne to bring Heights to him. And the other members don't want to add a new person to their crew, but Bourne goes off to search for Heights.
I mean, I don't necessarily want to see him get sucked into that vortex because it's not doing all that great at the moment. But if at some point they get a better name and they actually start booking them properly and give them a push, I think it could be beneficial for him to be with a solid group. I mean,
we then get the main event. The young OG, Javon Evans versus Sean Spears.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that this was match of the night for NXT.
Yes, I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. Even though, and Spears got the win here, and even though Spears is the veteran, I was honestly a little surprised. I kind of thought Javon Evans was going to get the win here, just because he's the younger talent that I feel like benefits more from the win here. For him, it's a big win over a veteran, whereas Spears beating a young guy is like what he's supposed to do. So I'm not sure. I would have preferred Evans to win here, but I did think it was a good showcase. I really like Evans. I'm high on Evans a lot.
But I think it's fine because Evans has just been here for a month. And he has time to learn, grow, get better, and come back and beat Spears in the future.
I agree with that. If your goal, and it seems like he's been on almost every episode since he's been here, if your goal is to make him a mainstay and give him a push, another Trick Williams kind of person, then I think a win here over Spears would have done a lot to propel him. But like you said, they can slow play it, and if he gets the win in a month or two over Spears after this loss, then it's probably no different ultimately. I mean, so
there's a lot of promise with him, but also he's so young.
Yes.
That go ahead and slow burn him. Because you don't want to rocket off new talent so fast and then have him plummet down to the ground. It's better to slowly build them up and make sure that there's a stable foundation underneath them.
I tend to agree with that. The only thing that I would say, maybe it's like contradiction to that, is that we talked about NXT feeling like the roster's down, and he's really good so far, and he's already got the crowd kind of over, and he's shown that he can be good. So I feel like they need him sooner than later. But at the same time, like you said, you don't want to rush him and fuck him up either. So
After that, we had Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate backstage with Frazier and Axiom. Tony D and the boys go in. Tony D offers to educate them on the history of the Heritage Cup, and Tyler Bate says, "My name's on the cup."
yeah, I mean, for a show closing segment, I thought this was okay. I mean, usually we end with a match, but I wasn't opposed to ending with this, ultimately. So
Axiom then says that his best friend, A Kid, also has his name on the cup, which, like that's like Sami Zayn saying El Generico's name's on the cup.
right, yeah. No, I mean it's funny. Yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. I didn't have any problem with it.
Then backstage, Sean Spears approaches Cody about watching the Battle Royale next week. That Cody won the Rumble and he's going to win the Battle Royale, and they're both going to have their, they're both going to be on top.
I can see Sean Spears winning it and being Trick's next challenge.
Yeah, Ethan Page walks up and
right,
starts saying that like he's gonna be winning, and then Lexus King shows up and it says the challenger is gonna be a king or something like that.
Yeah, he's not winning.
No, he's not. But Cody says that he feels like they're all in a good place, which seems like a shot at AEW, but I didn't mind it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I necessarily took it that way, but yeah, I mean, I suppose it could be interpreted that way. I mean, like I said, I thought this was a decent way to end the show. As far as backstage stuff goes, for to wrap up an episode of the show. So, and like I said, it's interesting to have Cody there, and you got to have him do something. So I guess this works. I mean, otherwise, I'm not totally sure what he has to do. I think give JC Jane that weird segment with JC Jane and the magnet or the mask. So I don't know.
And then we got the closing segment of the show. Roxanne Perez comes out, addresses the NXT universe.
You're right. I forgot about that.
Perez says the one person that should thank her is NXT General Manager Ava. And after saying that, Ava comes down. She talked about beating Jordan Grace. Ava says she assumed Perez would do something like this, blah, blah, blah. Congratulates Perez. Ava says it's not about what you say, but what you do. Roxanne Perez cuts off Ava and talks about how Ava tries to make it all about herself. She says no matter who Ava puts in front of her, she'll find a way to win because nobody's taking the title off her. And then we get JC Jane and Jasmine Nix coming down. JC Jane says like she was the reason people tuned in before Roxanne even signed to NXT, which I disagree.
Yeah, I don't know that I believe that either.
The reason I wanted to tune out, not tune in.
Yeah, I never tuned in for JC Jane, no.
Toxic Attraction didn't do it for me. I understand that they were popular with people. I definitely heard people say how much they enjoyed Toxic Attraction. I was not one of those people.
I agree with that.
So after that, Lash Legend comes out, and honestly, I don't remember what Lash Legend said, but she came out with Jakara Jackson.
I don't remember exactly what she said either.
She said it's on site.
On site. There you go.
But then we had Lola Vice come out, brag about winning the underground match, talks about being the only person at Roxanne's level, which I was like, yeah, yeah, she is. Like, looking at the roster, I don't think anybody else is up there.
No, I think that's probably fairly accurate. I mean, we talked about that earlier. That that there's definitely a lack of women ultimately at the top, and that Roxanne and Lola are in that position somewhere there. The top 3 or 4.
Jackson
Maybe
tells
maybe 1 and
Lola
2.
to shake her happy ass to the end of the line, and Lola Vice kicks her in the head.
Yep, and then you have a brawl.
And Perez and Vice were the last two standing in the ring, staring at the other woman on the outside. They never laid hands on each other, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Also, Lola said something in Spanish to Roxanne.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yep, I did catch that. I don't know what she said, but yes,
I know a smattering of Spanish, but I didn't feel like paying close attention to find out what it was. Like, sorry, I figured if it was important that somebody else would tell me.
Yeah, I mean, Roxanne Perez obviously is a decent promo, and she's the women's champ at the moment. I do think that she's, Lola Vice is right when she says she's the only one, or that Roxanne is right when she says Lola's the only one worthy of a title shot, or whoever said it. I don't remember.
Lola said that she's the only one on Roxanne's level.
On Roxanne's level. And I agree with that. Jakara Jackson definitely is not. I'm not totally sure why JC Jane and Jasmine Nix are out here. I guess they want to push these guys. That's why they're putting them kind of in this main event. I don't know, whatever you're calling it. For me, they felt a little out of place myself, so I'm not totally sure what they're doing there. Even with the Cody Rhodes giving her the mask, I guess that was like him passing the torch to her, and now they're going to try to push her potentially, which is weird to me. I don't know. So, like I said, those two felt a little out of place, but solid segment. I mean, I didn't have any complaints about it. I mean, I think Lola and Roxanne work well together. A match between them would be very interesting.
The only thing is that after that, like,
then what?
All you can do is bring in Julia. There's no other options on the roster right now. Like, the only thing else you can do is wait for Cora Jade to come back from injury. And like, does anybody really want that? Is that what everybody wants? Because like, I'm fine not doing that.
But I'm not waiting for Cora Jade to come back. I'm not a big Cora Jade fan. So, I mean, that's not what I'm waiting for. No, I mean, I'd like to think that they would go out and potentially recruit some other talent. I mean, that's what they need to do, honestly. So, I don't know. We'll ultimately have to wait and see. I mean, we keep saying Julia, but I haven't gotten even any indication of anywhere where I can see like when they expect her to actually debut. So they haven't done anything to even hint about her really coming at all. So I mean, I don't, I don't know. We'll have to ultimately see. I mean, has she signed the contract? Is she officially on the WWE payroll? Or are they still working on it? Is it still?
To my knowledge, she did sign a contract, but she's free to continue her dates with Marigold.
Okay.
That she has signed with Marigold.
Right. So in that regard, then it's only a matter of time. I mean, and you got to realize, you got to think that, I mean, Sean isn't stupid and Triple H isn't stupid. They know how good she is. And if they're going to actually put her on NXT, they've got to know that NXT needs women. And so the sooner they can get her in there, the better. My guess is that the reason they haven't probably brought her in is because it just hasn't worked out time-wise or whatever. But, no, I mean, she needs to be there sooner than later. That division needs her for sure. I mean, I think it's unfortunate for the rest of the division because they don't feel no one in that division is on her level. That's for sure. And she's better than a lot of the women on the main roster.
Yes.
So, I mean, she's not going to be there very long either. I can't imagine. I imagine it'll only be a short period of time before she's up on the main roster.
Well, they could be pulling an Asuka with her, where you're like, we're going to keep you on NXT and you're going to hold the NXT women's division together. until like we get a new class in here that can, fill in the shoes that you're filling in for already.
They definitely could. For me, Asuka feels a little different because I feel like Julia comes in more well known than Asuka was when she came in. So it feels like it's a little harder to kind of keep her at that lower level, but we'll have to see what they end up ultimately doing. I mean, I can see that for sure. I mean,
all right. Let's do our predictions for Clash at the Castle now.
Clash at the Castle preview. Yes. Make
Did you
sure
want
to
to ask
join
me?
us. I don't have the match card, but I can bring it up. Hold on, give me just a sec. If you have the match card, we can start, or let's see, I'll find it here.
I mean, we can start with the championship matches. Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre. Who you got?
That's a really good question. Let's see here. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find. I'm trying to think of this and find this link here to this thing here at the same time. It feels like Drew should win at home in Scotland, but at the same time, Damian Priest basically just got this belt. And I think that Drew and CM Punk is the big match at SummerSlam for Drew ultimately. So if Drew wins here, that would put him in a match ultimately, unless they took the title away from him again really quickly with Gunther at SummerSlam, which seems to kind of counteract CM Punk and him at SummerSlam. So my guess is that Damian Priest gets the win here. That's my thought process. Let's see. What do you think? I mean, who do you got?
So let's say Damian beats Drew here. Who does Damian face at the next pay-per-view?
That's a really good question. That is a really good question. Technically the next pay-per-view is at SummerSlam. If it is, it's Gunther,
Money
right?
in the Bank.
Oh, Money in the Bank. You're right. Okay. I don't know. That's a good question. Can he face Gunther twice? I mean, can he beat Gunther once and then lose to Gunther at SummerSlam? I mean, I guess it defeats the purpose of Gunther saying I'm going to use my shot at SummerSlam against whoever the champion is, right? So
my best idea would be Sami Zayn.
With the IC title?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not totally sure.
Because, I mean, unless Sami Zayn loses the IC title here.
I mean, I suppose if he lost the IC title to Chad Gable here and then moved on to a feud with Damian Priest, I could potentially see that. I mean, not sure necessarily how we get from A to Z, but I'm not opposed to that idea.
It's really hard trying to, you got a month gap here of what do you do? Are you just not going to have a match at the pay-per-view?
Yeah, that's an interesting. I guess he doesn't necessarily have to have a match at the pay-per-view. I mean, they're gonna, they'll have a Money in the Bank winner, so who can cash in any time. I suppose they don't have to have a match. I feel like they do usually, though. So I don't know. That's a really good question. There's nobody else really that they put on the radar like that. I mean, I don't.
Jey Uso is going to be in the Money in the Bank match.
Right. I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a good question. That's a really good question that I don't have an answer to at the moment. So I'm not sure.
I mean, there is an answer, but I don't want it to be the answer.
Which is what?
Braun Strowman.
I suppose they could do that. He's currently feuding with them. I mean, you could do a Dragon Lee or a Rey Mysterio. I suppose they're feuding as well.
I think I just answered the question myself. Jeez. Okay. So I got Damian winning.
Oh, okay. Yeah, me too. I got Damian winning. Let's see. Cody versus AJ in an I Quit match.
Cody.
We got Cody. Fuck.
Cody's going to hold
Why?
that title for at least another half year.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right, which really irritates me because I'd love to see AJ win the title here. I don't like Cody Rhodes and I love AJ Styles, so it's terrible. I have a hard time saying that, but unfortunately, you're probably right. For the sake of argument, I can take AJ just because I like him enough that I'm willing to take him, and if he loses, oh well. Especially if you got Cody, but I think Cody Rhodes probably gets the win here, unfortunately. I think you are probably correct. Let's see. Then we got Bailey versus Piper Niven for the WWE Women's Championship.
Bailey.
Yeah, I'm assuming Bailey gets a win here, which is unfortunate because I like Piper, but I think this is more a showcase spot for Bailey to get a solid win and end her title reign. Um, so hopefully Piper gets a better match down the road or something. A true opportunity down the road. Let's see, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus the Unholy Union.
Considering that the
Wait,
Unholy
hold on.
Union
And Shayna Baszler versus Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. So the triple threat. I apologize. So for the women's tag team championship.
Here's the thing: is that like Bianca and Jade aren't going to be the ones losing, but they also might not be the ones who win. Like,
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, we've talked about it many times, and I've said 150 million times on podcasts on this channel that, these triple threat matches are a great way for you to protect people and still have them lose, right? So Bianca and Jade could give up the titles here and not have to take a pin, not have to, anything. So Zoe Stark could eat the pin and Unholy Union as a champion, and, Bianca and Jade, one of them did something that cost it for the other, for their team, and then we get to Bianca and Jade feud that I think everybody ultimately wants. I think, if we're ready to do that, then that's fine here. I think there's still meat on the bone with them as champions. So I think they hold the belts for a little bit longer, but I don't know how much longer.
but yeah, you can definitely save that for like SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And then they can have the match against each other at Bash in Berlin.
Yeah, that would work. I can see that. Let's see. This is the last match that I see here. I don't know if it's the last one, but the last one I've got here is Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable for the Intercontinental Championship.
Which I'm gonna go Sammy. I think he's gonna be champion come Money in the Bank because it's in Canada, and like,
Okay.
do you really want to take the title off of Sammy and not have him at Money in the Bank? Like, unless he's in the Money in the Bank match, but like, who's even in Money in the Bank?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, this is tough here because Chad Gable's now been around this title for a long time. I mean, I felt bad when he lost to Gunther. Now I'm going to feel bad if he loses to Sami Zayn because I like Chad Gable and I feel like Chad Gable should have this title at some point and should have a run with it. It feels like it's not. It felt like I was okay with it against Gunther if he had beat Gunther just because Gunther had the belt already for a long time and had a bunch of wins already, whereas Sami Zayn hasn't had the belt that long. And I do think that Sammy benefits from having the belt. I think it helps keep him at that kind of in people's minds that kind of more main event level. So I do think he benefits from having it, but I do feel bad for Chad, and I wouldn't be distraught if Chad got the win here. But you're probably right. I mean, it's probably Sami Zayn. That's what seems to make sense story wise.
But like, could be wrong.
Could be wrong. Tune in, join us for our watch along to find out. We will be here Saturday for Clash at the Castle live, watch along.
Seems like this is not going to be a great pay-per-view, though, if we're basically agreeing with each other.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot. I mean, I think Damian and Drew could maybe go either way. Cody seems unfortunately kind of like a foregone conclusion against AJ. Bailey's definitely beating Piper. I mean, there's not a whole lot here that seems to be, I don't know.
I think the one most up in the air is Sammy and Chad. But
yeah,
like,
that's probably true. That's one
And
that's close to 50-50 as far as the people in the match as having, not knowing which way it's going to go, probably. Um, yeah, I mean, I if Bianca and Jade don't retain, then it's going to be the unholy union. I don't see Shayna and Zoe winning. There's no way that time. I think Zoe Stark's there to take the pin, one way or the other. So, and I have a feeling Jade and Bianca retain the titles here. That's my personal feeling. But
always sad when there's
yeah,
no title change at a pay per view though, and like I don't see any of the titles changing hands. Like I feel like everybody's pretty well going to retain their titles until we get to SummerSlam.
unfortunately, that's probably very true, which does make it for slightly lackluster, both this and Money in the Bank. I guess the thing that saves Money in the Bank is that it's Money in the Bank, and that match is always exciting. So,
Yeah.
again, like you said, I'd have to see who's even in it. But the fact that we don't even know totally who's in it yet, probably it doesn't bode necessarily great for it being,
The theorized people in the matches that they have is that Jey Uso and Ludwig Kaiser are two of the three representatives for the Raw brand. That's
yeah. I mean, I like Jey Uso. I'm ice cold on Ludwig Kaiser. I don't do Kaiser at all. I mean, I don't. I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying he's bad. He just doesn't move the needle for me. He doesn't do anything for me. So
yeah, I feel that.
That doesn't. So him being in there feels like a wasted spot for me. There's other people I would rather have that spot, but it is what it is. So yeah, I think that's. You don't have any more matches, right? That's it. There's 5 matches. Only 5. Okay, interesting.
Well, WWE usually just does 5 or 6. Like we might get another match set up for the pre-show on SmackDown tomorrow, but
this is true. We do have one more WWE weekly show before the pay-per-view that could provide some sort of something at the pay-per-view. But yeah, as of now, those are the 5 matches.
No men's tag team matches. No Logan Paul match. Like,
yeah.
Unless SmackDown changes something, one of those titles ends up getting defended last minute.
Sure. Yep. Nope. All right. Well, I guess unless you got anything else to say.
No.
I mean, I thought it was a solid week of Raw. I thought it was a solid week of NXT for what it was. And Clash of the Castle should be, it's not going to be a great show, but it shouldn't be terrible. I think a couple of the matches will be good matches, even though they seem fairly predictable. I think they should still be good matches. Whatchamacallit should be solid. AJ versus Cody should be a good match. That should be a solid match. I'm not a huge Cody fan, but he can wrestle, and so I mean that should be. And AJ's amazing, so that should be a really good match. And Chad and Sammy should be a really solid match as well. So
I assume that should be. I'd assume that being the opener.
Yeah, I can see that being the opener. So in that regard, I mean, there should be a couple good matches on the show, but I think overall it's not overly exciting on paper. But nonetheless, make sure and join us here on Saturday for that. We'll be live for that when it starts. Make sure and join us tomorrow night for Friday Night Fights, where Sammy Joe and Anika will watch SmackDown and Rampage. And yeah, until then. Peace.